Thanks for stopping by, guys, and welcome back to Stormworks. Now, one of the big reasons I haven't really played much of this game recently is because I haven't really had many finished products to show. A lot of what I've been working on in this game so far has been prototypes and proof of concepts, and I really don't like to show those off because, well, some of them are cool, not all of them work really well, and not all of them look good at all. But today I've actually got one I really do enjoy, and I think it could be very helpful for some of you guys to implement into some of your designs. It's something that can really easily be added to an already existing craft to make it a lot better and a lot faster is the main purpose. So this is based off of a Navy cruiser, more specifically the Plain View, and is a hydrofoil based ship. I'm going to go through how to actually make one of these, and it's quite simple actually to implement these onto a ship, and due to the nature of how they're built, it's not that hard to actually get it set up for even large ships. This is I'd say a medium to small size ship here. So let me actually turn on the fucking engine. That would be helpful. There we go. Engine on. And we're off. And it's your standard speedboat. And if we look here, we're hitting about 25, 26 units. I'm going to guess those are knots. So I'm going to always say that's knots. So we're hitting about 26 knots. Pulling a little to the right. We can correct it for that. And not a bad speedboat. But if we hit 1, the hydrofoils extend. The boat lifts out of the water. And now we're rocking. So we go back and look. Now we're hitting, instead of 25 knots, we're hitting about 42 at peak, about 30, 33 at the down spots. So basically what this does is there are little fins below the water which are trying to keep in water while also lifting the ship up. This takes the majority of the surface area out of the water, allowing for a reduction in drag, which pretty much means you have the same amount of power, which is having to push a lot less, which allows you to get a lot faster. So this goes from about, it increases from like, what was it, 25 in the water to 30 or 42 out of the water. These are a bit hard to steer simply because I haven't perfected the steering system. If you slow down a little bit, you can usually get a better turn radius out of it. Tap the throttle and you get good, but if you're at full speed, you're not going to go very far. You can correct your direction, but you're not going to make a turn on a dime. So, in that short time, we actually traveled quite a ways out from the docking area. I'm going to quickly place a marker so I can get back there easier. There we go. And I did some calculations earlier with this craft, and this craft hits about 90 miles an hour if these distances are correct. So basically what I did is I looked at this point, waited for it to get to around 0, started a stopwatch, and waited for me to go 1 kilometer, did a bit of math, and this ship supposedly goes 90 miles an hour, which ain't too shabby in my opinion. So this is the Behemoth. This is actually the bottom half of the, where is it? The Overlord. This big guy. I've shown this off in a previous episode. It is a really big ship, and I pretty much took the bottom of it and strapped the hydrofoil system to it. And let's look at it and how it improves this ship. And let's go. So with bigger ships, a few things that you have to change is the actual hydrofoils. You're going to need bigger ones, or in this case, more of them. You're going to need more power, just as a general sense, to push your larger weight. And you're going to need sturdier supports. Certain ships you can get away with this or that, but this is kind of the general rule. The bigger the ship, the bigger the hydrofoil. You're just going to have to boost every aspect of it. And it's better to over-engineer rather than risk something failing. So right now we're in the water, and we are hitting about 11 knots. Now if we hit 1, this hydrofoil system deploys a lot slower than the other one. So it's going to take a minute for us to get up and out of the water. And we'll see how that works here in a second. As you can see, the front is already lifting up quite a bit. But here in a second, the back will lift up as well. This one doesn't sit as high above the water, but it does still sit completely out of the water once this back section lifts. Now we are completely out of the water. Wait for us to level out a little bit. And now we went from 11 knots to we're hitting 17, 18 knots. So almost a double in speed after we picked up out of the water. Once again, this ship doesn't have the best turning radius. And honestly, it turns better with the hydrofoils than it does in the water. Alright, and here we are in the editor. Let's go ahead and load up a ship that doesn't have a hydrofoil on it. Honestly, I haven't had a chance to make many ships. Let's go with the large cargo carrier. This thing. You know what? I want something bigger. I want something bigger to try and do this on. Yes. I think I'm going to use this. So, first things first. Any sort of propulsion you have already is pretty much going to be useless. So go ahead and cut this off. All of your rudders. Unnecessary. Don't need it. Patch up any holes which you've just created. And we're ready to start. Now, first things first, you're going to need one large one at the rear. We're going to over-engineer this quite a bit. If I can find the parts I need, there we are, linear tracks. And pretty much make a large linear track. And there we go. Put one up at top. And when you're putting down your linear tracks, you need to make sure they all face the same direction. So positive and negative need to be all the same. And now to put the other two down. And the other two's position is a bit more important. The one at the back is going to be your main weight support, or not really your main weight supporter. It's going to be used mostly for balance. But because it is standing alone, it is going to have a bit more stress on it by itself. The ones at the front are actually going to support the majority of your weight, and they need to be near but slightly in front of your center of mass. So we're actually going to attach these to the deck itself. Make sure, yeah, I have a parallel deck. Let's bring this down quite a bit. And I do not have mirror mode on. I'm going to turn mirror mode on real quick. Patch this hole. And build the rest of these struts. There we go. And where did I put this on the back one? The back one, negative, was up. So negative up on this. Go ahead and bring this down. Now you want this to be below the waterline. Already below the waterline. Because this is where your rudder is going to sit, or not your rudder, but your propeller. And you want it to always be below the waterline so that when you actually activate it, it will push the boat up. So bring this down a little bit farther down. There we go. On these, you want to go ahead and put your propellers first off, and second off your rudders. I'm going to use a large rudder for this. It's probably going to be needed. There we are. So you need to make sure positive is up on these. That is one of the major things you're going to have to think of. Here in a second, if I'm wrong, then we'll fix it. But for now, always make sure that the positive side is up. There we go. I'm going to make this look a bit nicer. There we go. And now your propulsion. I should probably make this one more wider, so I can get a nice 2 rudders back here, or 2 propellers. I keep saying rudders. And let's get a 3rd one just for shits and giggles. And 1 up front. So now that we've got these implemented, you're going to have to do a bit of balancing to make sure that your power is not too far forward or too far back. But we'll do that once we get everything else set up. You need an altimeter. Each pillar needs its own altimeter, and you want the altimeter to be at the water line. So pretty much make sure that it's above your propeller and your rudder, or your hydrofoil, I guess technically here. And let's see. And it should be about where the ship's natural water line is. This then connects directly to your hydrofoils. And that is that. Go ahead and get your engine power, which this ship doesn't seem to have proper engine power. That may be an issue that we need to fix. Having said that, I'm actually not going to put this 3rd rudder on the back. It's kind of overkill, especially when I don't think I have enough engine power to actually sustain it. And steering. I'm actually going to delete that. And steal the ship's A&D controller. Where does this A&D controller go to? It's just a simple inverter. I see how I did that. Which shouldn't be necessary. So there's that. And last but not least is you have to actually have a button to deploy the actual hydrofoils. So you need a knot. Put this wherever you want to do below deck. Go ahead and get button 1. Hook it up to this. So when button 1 is active, you want it to go down, which is actually up because of arrows. Anyway. So we want it to go up when active and down when not active. Down. Give me that point, thank you. Down. Up. Up. And whatever you do, make sure that the button that you connect to is a toggle button. You don't want it on a push button. This hydrofoil is not connected to its right thing. And just a quick check to make sure everything is hooked up right, and we should be able to launch our first tests. So as you can see, our altimeter sits at the ship's natural water line, which is good. Let me check this one back here. We'll climb up on deck here in a second. This one's just a bit above, which isn't a major issue. Especially on the rear one. The rear one can dip a little bit and not cause many issues. Let's go ahead and get up here into the cockpit. And get on the helm. Start the engines. I don't remember what half these buttons do. That's my lights. And that is my throttle. There we go. Okay, I know what this ship can do. So we've got good power. Let's check steering. We are turning extremely slow because we've got really bad rudders, because I haven't improved those yet. Now let's see about getting us up and out of the water. Now we are getting lift, but not enough. So we are going to need more hydrofoils. Go ahead and bring this back to the dock. So if your ship is moving too slow, you need more propellers. If your ship isn't getting pushed up out of the water like it should, you're going to need more hydrofoils. Okay, so I've lightened up the front end. I've installed a speedometer. And we're ready for the Maiden Voyage now. Everything's been balanced out and we're ready to go. So with hydrofoils the ship in the water, we are hitting 10.7 knots. 10.8 we hit. So say 11 knots. Not a bad speed. It's correct so we don't hit that buoy right in front of us. Let's hit our hydrofoils. And pick ourselves up out of the water. So now we're hitting 15, 16, 17, 18, and climbing 20, 21, 22. So we went from 11 knots to 22.6. So we doubled the speed of this craft just by going with hydrofoils. Now, there are some arguments to be made for being able to put more propellers in the water or so on, having better turning, because the turning on this isn't optimal. I haven't optimized it yet. And yes, I realize that that is not even. Sorry for all those people who have OCD. But we have managed to double the speed of this craft with hydrofoils. So now we actually have an aircraft carrier which is just as fast as the speedboat was while in the water. This is just as fast as the speedboat was in the water. Aircraft carrier going the speed of a speedboat. That's fucking hilarious. Anyway, so I'm sorry if there were any kind of slow points in this episode. It was mostly focused to be a tutorial and less so a showcase. The showcase part was more so to show off the capabilities of this system and what it could be done with. It is actually quite easy to put on a craft. There's a bit more trial and error to it, which is the most difficult part, but there really isn't any complicated logic or anything like that. As long as your ship has enough engine power, you can pretty much make it go fast. So with that being said, I am going to end out this episode. If you did enjoy this little showcase / tutorial, please let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for stopping by, thanks for sticking around, and until next time, peace.